Welcome to Live from Mars, your weekly pop music podcast where we go through the latest and greatest new music releases, what's happening in the industry, and a deep dive each week. My name is Alex. You may know me as Mars from TikTok, Instagram, this podcast, YouTube, wherever you have found me. Welcome. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different than other ones. We're going to do a little bit of a retrospective. We're going to go through my picks for the best songs of 2025 so far, with it being middle of June. I'm realizing now sitting here that I could probably do this in a few weeks once we have all of the music expected to drop in June, which includes Lord's new album Virgin dropping on the 27th. But I'm having the idea and I'm motivated to sit down and talk about it right now, so we're doing it today. It also kind of works out because there's seemingly very little new music to talk about that dropped this week. I'll give you guys a quick little debrief into what I've been listening to from this week's New Music Friday. Music news of the week, we have a new Sabrina Carpenter album coming, a new album cover that is causing quite the stir. But before I get into all of it, if you are not already following and subscribed to the podcast, please make sure you do so. It means the absolute world to me. It is how we get amazing guests to come on, like last week's episode with Thomas Crottinger. If you did not yet listen to that interview, I highly encourage you to do so. It was an incredibly educational episode where Thomas took us through the world of music publishing, what it is, how it works, and even through his time on Survivor. So that episode is available wherever you get your podcasts, but without any further ado, let's get into this week's New Music Friday highlights. This week's New Music Friday was a little bit bare. There really wasn't so much exciting stuff that dropped after how big the last few weeks have felt. I did manage to go through this week's New Music Friday playlist to pull through my favorites. You can always find them every week. It's updated my playlist called Life on Mars. Consistent branding here. Life on Mars, our New Music Friday playlist, is available on Spotify. The link for that will be in the description of the episode, so if you want to follow along, you can. Now, even looking at this playlist, I'm not in love. However, there are a few gems here. My first recommendation for this week's New Music Friday is Kehlani's new single, Folded. Kehlani is an artist who I've been really into over the last 6 or so years. I first started paying attention to Kehlani with her song Nights Like This with Ty Dolla $ign back in 2019. I played that on repeat. I don't even know how often. And then things really clicked for me with Kehlani's album Blue Water Road that dropped in, I think, 2022. Yeah, 2022. The album title just perfectly summarizes the feeling you get listening to this album. It feels like you were sitting by the most beautiful ocean in the world falling in love. Songs like Wish I Never show a more playful side of Kehlani. You have Alter, which was a main single off the project. It's one of the more classic, just like pure pop songs on the album, but my favorite of which is Melt. It is just exactly what I envision falling in love to sound like. So highly recommend checking those out from Blue Water Road. Folded, the new single, it's bouncy, it's light, it's airy. It feels like a song that's great for summer. Folded shows off a little bit. The lighting is terrible on this. Folded shows off a little bit more playful of a side of Kehlani. It's more of her like kind of enticing you as you're listening to the project, but what really grabbed me immediately were the strings that open the song. I said this on, I think, last week's episode, maybe with the Addison project or a Miley album review, I forget which, but if there's strings in the song, there's a 99.9% chance I'm going to love it, and this one hit that. Here's a quick snippet of Folded for you to check out before we get into our next rec.
So can you come pick up your clothes? I had them folded. Meet me at the door while it's still open.
Number 2 goes to Mark Ronson and Raye, a duo that I honestly didn't think about coming together, but it makes so much sense when you actually take a second to think about the impact of it. Their new single called Suzanne dropped on Friday. Here's a quick snippet.
You can't tell she's into you. She's a winding road that I've been running on down since I was 7 years old. I would love to hold you if I can.
Mark Ronson's name has been around for over a decade now. He really came to the front with Uptown Funk with Bruno Mars. That's actually a Mark Ronson song. Mark Ronson has also worked with Amy Winehouse's Valerie. He also has an amazing remix of Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso, which actually won the Grammy for Best Remix Recording, which is amazing. But I more so fell in love with Mark Ronson with his 2019 album, Late Night Feelings. And this is the album that has his collaboration with Miley Cyrus, Nothing Breaks Like a Heart, on it. There's a ton of collaborations with Licky Lee on this album, but my favorite of which is the title track, Late Night Feelings. Mark Ronson also worked with Yeba on the project. It's a really strong effort, but the new single Suzanne is a collaboration with Raye, and Raye is an artist who often reminds me and many others of Amy Winehouse. So a lot of this is kind of clicking. Suzanne plays into both Mark and Raye's strengths. It's very jazzy. It feels like you're sitting in like a New York City red velvet lined jazz club with Raye just completely killing her vocal delivery. Her tone is electrifying. If you're not yet familiar with Raye, I cannot encourage you enough to listen to her music. I actually think it'd be really interesting to hear an entire Mark Ronson Raye album together because the two of them clearly work really well together. And I like that Raye is bringing Mark Ronson more so into the jazzy side of his artistry. The way that Elton John and Brandy Carlisle have a collaborative album, I would kill to see a Mark Ronson and Raye collaborative album. And then number 3, new song called My Love by Hannah Jadagu. I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably not because I'm definitely butchering it. But that one actually really intrigued me. Here's a quick snippet of My Love. So you can kind of tell by that quick snippet. My Love feels like an 80s disco inspired hit that has just been like waiting in the shadows of all of the other 80s disco inspired hits of the last 5+ years to have its moment in the sun. Hannah's an up and coming artist. She has about 220,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. So if you're looking to find some fresh new talent before they really break big, Hannah's an amazing person to do that with. She actually released her first ever EP right after graduating high school. She plays very much into the bedroom pop sound. And I actually think the part of why I love that song, My Love, so much is because it reminds me of Taylor Swift's Lover a lot. Not the song, the album, and the way that Taylor's vocals are produced on Lover. Reverb heavy, very echoey, but playing into that 80s late night sound. That is what you get on the new single, My Love. So make sure you check that out. And that is our New Music Friday roundup. Again, all of these songs and more are on my Life on Mars playlist. Check that out on Spotify. And let's get into the music news of the week. All right, so there was no bigger music news story this week than Sabrina Carpenter, a surprise announcing a brand new album. It's called Man's Best Friend. It's dropping August 29th. 1 year and 6 days after the release of her album Short and Sweet. This is coming after the release of the single Man Child, which came out last week. The song is expected to debut at number 1 after being in close competition with Alex Warren's Ordinary, and myself and many others were completely shocked that Sabrina was putting out a new album, but when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Because Short and Sweet was so unbelievably massive, huge commercial success, multiple number 1 singles between Please Please Please, on radio charts as well. You have Espresso and Taste and Bedchem and Juno, and all of these songs not only had chart and commercial impact, but also had cultural impact. But because the album was so massive, it feels like it ran its course very quickly just because it was so heavily consumed across the board. Sabrina also went out on tour for the Short and Sweet tour very quickly after. It makes sense now that there's another US leg to bring on new music as well. And when Manchild dropped last week, I just took it as a one-off single because Sabrina's been performing on the festival circuit and there's no clear song of the summer, so let's throw a song that either didn't make Short and Sweet's final cut or was written right after it, which is what happened with Manchild. Let's put it out there, see what it does, because A, it's Sabrina Carpenter. She's one of the biggest pop stars on the planet right now. And B, it's a good song, so let's just see how it does, which it was pretty much guaranteed to do well. And what do you know? It is. The last thing that I was expecting was a brand new full-length album, but that is exactly what we're getting. And Sabrina herself even said she was not expecting to put out a full-length album a year after Short and Sweet, but inspiration just struck. She couldn't stop writing. She had new life to tell. And my thought on it is strike while the iron's hot. It actually makes a shit ton of sense because if you think back to the way Rihanna released music in the late 2000s throughout the 2010s, Rihanna released a brand new album every single year like clockwork. I believe it was almost every year from 2006 to 2012. And then she took a 4-year break, then dropped Anti in January of 2016 and has not put out a new album since then. Now, Rihanna has kind of mentioned that a lot of those albums were filled with filler, which is 100% accurate, but you can't deny that there is a solid instantly classic hit on every single one of those Rihanna albums. Now looking at the fact that Rihanna is not really a figure in pop music anymore, and Sabrina is this clear given talent with consistent hit potential, It makes sense to drop a project a year after, even though it is quick. Who says there has to be a 2-year gap or more between each album? If that's the amount of time it takes to be inspired and to create a sound that you're happy with and songs that you feel like you want to present to the public, then go for it. But if inspiration struck and there's good music behind it, why not put it out? It's kind of how Ariana Grande approached Sweetener and Thank You Next, coming out 6 months apart. Same thing with Taylor Swift with Folklore and Evermore 4 months apart. If the music is there, why not put it out? Because when you're that level of fame, it will do well pretty much. Now, the issue I have with this is that I don't think Manchild is really something so special the way that Espresso, Please Please Please, Taste, Bedchem, Juno are. I think Manchild is kind of like you took 15 minutes, Busy Woman, and Please 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 and threw it in a blender. It's not bad at all. It's just not a song that I'm sitting here having constantly stuck in my head. I need to hear it again. That's just me personally. So to put another album out a year after Short and Sweet already came out that is largely reusing the same sound as its predecessor, it feels just like this is a continuation of Short and Sweet, and because they already did a deluxe of Short and Sweet, they can't do a deluxe edition. So maybe I'll be surprised. We don't know anything else about the album other than she was inspired by Dolly Parton, Donna Summer, and ABBA, which makes a lot of sense. But we do know that many, 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 many people had a huge issue with the album cover. On the album artwork, Sabrina is seen on her knees in front of what looks to be a man who was seen off camera, also pulling her hair from the top, and it's an incredibly provocative image. Many people are incredibly upset that it is anti-feminist, that it is pushing back the feminist movement years because of how just submissive it is positioning Sabrina on the cover. And I think there are two arguments here. One is this a socially acceptable image? And two, is this a good album cover? For the first, is this a socially acceptable image? There are two sides to that coin. The first one I already explained. The other side to it that I made an entire TikTok video about, you can go check it out on my page, is that this level of controversy for a pop star is nothing new. The media has constantly torn down pop stars, pop females, female celebrities in the space for being overly sexual for as long as I can remember. Look back at how they treated Madonna, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Miley Cyrus. But then on the flip side, when a man like Bad Bunny does a photo shoot in his underwear, no one bats an eye and no one complains about it. So it's a little bit of a double standard. Actually, not a little bit, entirely a double standard. And Sabrina's music, especially on Short and Sweet, is so beyond playful and putting men down for their idiocy, stupidity, laziness, shitty qualities all around, that there's definitely a double meaning behind this. There is definitely a meaning that will be uncovered throughout the album release process. I can very easily see us eventually getting the full version of this photo, and it's Sabrina holding Sabrina's hair or something like that. So there's a lot of room for this to go. I don't think it's worth being as upset about as some people are. But then that second question, is this a good album cover? I personally don't think so. I don't think this picture screams album artwork. It's a little bit low quality of an image. The filter, the lighting, the color hue on it is a little bit off. It's very pinky for some reason, and it looks like it needs to be edited and reshot. But if that's the aesthetic they're going for, then that's the aesthetic they chose, and we'll just have to wait and see what the music sounds like. But that is the biggest music news story of the week. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I'm sure you guys have an opinion, so sound off in the comments. Let me know. And without any further ado, let's get into our deep dive of the week. So our deep dive of this week is going to be me revealing my picks for the 10 best songs of 2020. Now, I tried to narrow this list down by the following. No artist could have more than one song on this list, and the songs for the most part are well-known, established singles, hits, potential, because I honestly could pick a deep album cut from a record that came out this year, say it's one of the best songs, but most people either wouldn't know about it or it wouldn't hold as much weight because it wasn't given a full-on public-facing treatment. So I tried to keep this list geared towards singles that have really strong potential, that are some of the best music released this year. At the end of the year, my full list will probably include a few songs by the same artist. They will definitely include some album cuts. There's actually one album cut on this list, maybe two actually. I'm looking at the list now. But I figured what better time than now? It's the middle of June. We're inching towards that middle point of the year for me to reveal this list to you all. Now, the order in which I reveal this list is not in any particular order. However, the first two songs are my picks for the best two songs released this year, and I still go back and forth every single day between the two. And before I even get into this, I want to know what you think the best 10 songs are. So make sure you post it on your Instagram story, tag me in it, comment on the video wherever you're consuming this. I want to know what your thoughts are. That's how I also discover new music. So without any more delay, let me just start getting to it. Number 1 is going to Abracadabra by Lady Gaga. In my opinion, is the best song on Mayhem. It is the best song released this year, tied with the next one I'll tell you about, but for a few reasons. One, because of the immediate impact that this song had. Abracadabra premiered its entire music video during the Grammy Awards this past February. It essentially broke the internet, at least the side of the internet that I'm on, because I could not go a minute without seeing this song on some social media platform. Immediate cultural impact, immediate success. It charted incredibly well. This song really brought back every ounce of excitement that the general public had for a new Lady Gaga era. Go back 6 months. You have Die With a Smile with Bruno Mars that dropped. That was originally not even supposed to be on the album. It was originally positioned as a one-off single. It did incredibly well because it really played into the same kind of sound that Gaga had established with A Star Is Born. But then the disastrous rollout of Joker 2 happened. The Harlequin album, which was largely a cover album, did not chart well, did not make any noise. The movie was completely panned. I saw it. It wasn't great. And then Gaga released Disease, the lead single off of Mayhem, and it didn't really do so well. The music video was cool, but like it didn't make anywhere near the noise the Abracadabra one did. Chart-wise, it didn't make the same kind of noise. And because Die With a Smile was still doing so well, it completely overshadowed Disease. And maybe people were expecting Die With a Smile to reflect the sound of Gaga's new project rather than the abrasiveness of Disease. Then came Abracadabra, and that completely changed everything for the Mayhem rollout. The music video, spectacular. Insane visuals, killer choreography, insane creative direction. The amount of TikToks that I've seen of people recreating the choreography, especially of that post-chorus hook, nonstop. The song also is very much paying homage to Lady Gaga's early work with Just Dance and Bad Romance. She even references herself in the song just like she does on Bad Romance. This led to many people saying she was reheating her own nachos, and in fact, she may be reheating her own nachos, but they were always hers to reheat, and some may say she reheated them better than they were originally. The lightning, the absolute energy baked into this song, I'm obsessed with the way that it starts off in the same abrasive energy with those grungy, filthy chords, the way that it does on Disease, but then the verses and that chorus are so classic, pure, glossy Gaga pop. She knows how to write a killer hook. There are so many hooks throughout the song. The melody in that pre-chorus is sticky as hell. The chorus itself is so memorable. The post-chorus, the feel the beat under your feet, that part also insane. The fact that you get an entire bridge with an instrumental break and Gaga going full-on ethereal angel vocally, this song is a 10 out of 10 to me. So Abracadabra, no question about it, one of the best songs released of 2020. Now, the other song I have tied for first, because I cannot decide which one of them is better, they are so different, is Miley Cyrus's Something Beautiful. As you probably know, I have not shut up about this album. I think it is the best album of Miley's entire career. It is no doubt in my mind one of the best albums released this year. I do not give a single shit what Pitchfork says. I don't care what those negative critics said because they were commenting on Miley as a person rather than the music itself a lot of the time. This album is a work of art. The vocal production is the best Miley has ever sounded. The songwriting with Michael Pollack was a great step forward for their collaboration. The actual production on the album, the drums are insane. The guitar work, insane. If you want a full-on, just audible masterpiece, listen to Something Beautiful. The title track is a perfect example of everything I love about the album. It starts off slow and moody and jazzy with a little bit of romantic edge. Miley asking someone to tell her something beautiful. She's low-key and breezy. Then out of absolutely nowhere, the song completely explodes into this intense rock opera. As you're thinking it's going way too far into the distorted lane, Miley brings it right back to that chill jazz moment. It's like she's singing to you personally in that jazz lounge I talked about before. And then it goes back to the crazy distortion and the grunge of like just full on blown out rock moment. And it explodes into the final moment of the song where it finally takes a little bit of a breather. The constant give and take, that yin yang battle that you get on this album with Miley being able vocally to pull off both perfectly is phenomenal. I have no doubt in my mind that I will be talking about this song. It will be on my best songs of the full year list, no question about it, likely in the top 5, if not top 3, if not number 1. So This song is phenomenal. And those two songs, I cannot pick between the two which one is number one, but I know they're both tied for it. The rest of the songs now are going to just be general thoughts on some of the songs that I think are the best this year. Next up on my list is Relationships by HAIM. Relationships was the first single released off of HAIM's new album called I Quit. I think it's actually dropping next week, so that's exciting. The song is kind of all about like single girl Summer and Danielle on this one. One of the three HAIM sisters just has such a fun spunk to her. Their guitar work is excellent. It plays within like a soft rock with a slight hip hop edge to it, and the hook is so catchy. I think what's really interesting about HAIM is how unique their tone and the vision they have is. It feels like we've gone back in time to the early 2000s. It's just like cool and refreshing to have a little bit of an edgier taste to a girl group, sisters who are working together, who all offer something cool and unique to the table with every song they put out. And all of the singles released so far for I Quit have each played in a very different pocket of their artistry. So this one is probably the most pop leaning right out the gate that I gravitated towards the most. But I'm very excited to hear their full length project. I think it's going to have a lot to offer across all different sounds of HAIM in their past and present states. So I'm very excited to hear that one when it finally comes out. Next up is a song from SZA, which came off of the deluxe edition of her album SOS called Lana. There are three songs that I had in contention for this one spot, which is why I mentioned earlier that there's only one song per artist from this list. The three songs that I had in contention were Another Life, Kitchen, actually four songs: Another Life, Crybaby, Kitchen, and Scorsese Baby Daddy, and I ultimately went with Scorsese Baby Daddy. I vividly remember listening to this when it came out, just being in absolute shock hearing this sound with SZA. It surprised me with how strong her vocals sounded on this style of song. The genre works so well for her. Like it's just classic SZA that you have a song like Saturn on the same album as Scorsese Baby Daddy. I love the fact that Martin Scorsese is directly name checked in this one. Scorsese Baby Daddy is all about SZA deciding that she wants to get her fix rather than actually face the gravity of her problems. It's incredibly relatable for many. It is a fun, exhilarating ride. It's fiery. There's a melody in Scorsese Baby Daddy. I remember hearing it for the first time, reminded me of He Could Be the One by Hannah Montana. So for some reason, that has always stayed with me. And it's like when you first listen to a song, like whatever that first reference you pick up on is kind of like tattooed in your brain, and every time you hear it you then think of that, and that is Scorsese Baby Daddy for me. I love the songwriting on Scorsese Baby Daddy. It's fun and playful but also dark and like damning. So that's Scorsese Baby Daddy. But again, there were plenty of other songs from Lana that could have made the list. That's just the one I chose to go with, but let me know what you think on that. Number 5 goes to Twilight Zone by Ariana Grande. This comes off the deluxe edition of Eternal Sunshine. Eternal Sunshine originally came out last March. Ariana released the deluxe edition in March of this year. There were 6 new songs, including Warm, Dandelion, Hampstead, but Twilight Zone is the one that perfectly encapsulates the Eternal Sunshine era and Ariana at this point in her pop star career for me. It's bubbly, it's synthy, it very much plays into the same soundscape that We Can't Be Friends, the #1 hit from Eternal Sunshine, did. It feels like a natural successor to it. I like the way that she is referencing the Twilight Zone TV show. I think the songwriting is emotional and vulnerable. Ariana is a master when she comes to vocal producing, and her harmonies, the stacks, the ad-libs that she's pulling on Twilight Zone are ethereal, mesmerizing, perfect, chill-inducing. Like it's truly some of the best that she has ever sounded. It's heartbreaking in its story. Ariana has just grown so much as an artist, as a songwriter, as a producer. She's not just some pop star who walks in, clocks her vocals, and dips. It's not only Ariana's true story, but she is the one building the pieces, putting the chapters together to create the work itself. And when you look at Twilight Zone on paper, it may not look like something incredibly special. It's another Max Martin created synth pop song. It's Ariana singing about her divorce, which is largely what Eternal Sunshine, the album, is about. Very much feels like a continuation of We Can't Be Friends. But whereas We Can't Be Friends to me always sounds like you're crying hysterically on the dance floor before just collapsing in utter defeat, Twilight Zone has a little bit more of a sense of maturity to it. It's acknowledging the emotions more. Twilight Zone feels like more of a proper acknowledgement of the gravity of the situation, of being an adult in the situation. Twilight Zone is one of the best songs released of 2025 in my opinion. What's next? Okay. Number 6 is an Addison Rae song. And again, I say this every single time I talk about her. If you had ever told me that I would be not only talking about Addison Rae as a serious musician, but talking about her this much and talking about her having one of the best songs released of this year, I would have never, ever believed you. but I am no longer a doubter. I am fully bought into this Addison Rae pop star train, and the song that I chose to include on this list was between Headphones On and Fame is a Gun, and I ultimately went with Headphones On. Before Addison's self-titled debut album came out, there were already 5 singles released from it, and Headphones On was the 4th of the bunch, but this one felt like the most raw and the most emotionally mature of the bunch to date. She's directly acknowledging the relationship that her parents had and the impact that had on her. In case you're not aware, her parents are not together. Headphones On is the first time that you really feel like you're getting to know Addison as a person outside of just a curator of music and a performer. Production-wise, this song is really intriguing to me. It's playing at an interesting middle ground of hip-hop and R&B and pop music. It reminds me a lot of Early Morning on Britney Spears' 2003 album In the Zone. It's lo-fi, it's moody, it's such a moody song, but the hook is so catchy, and it literally is just her singing about escaping the pain that she's dealing with by putting the music on. A lot of the singles that came before it were not nearly as personal, and granted, throughout the actual album, you don't get so deeply personal like you do on Headphones On, but the fact that she's able to take that meaning and put over it the idea of, I want to forget about this, I want to not acknowledge what's actually happening, so let me just throw my favorite music on and escape, essentially. Incredibly relatable, really poignant song for her putting out as a debut artist. So I really enjoyed this one. I think you're going to see this one pop up more often in critical lists at the end of the year than you actually expected to. So let's see. Number 7 is going to Open Hearts by The Weeknd. The song comes off The Weeknd's album Hurry Up Tomorrow, which dropped at the very end of January. This is the 3rd album in The Weeknd's most recent trilogy of After Hours from 2020, Dawn FM from 2022, and now Hurry Up Tomorrow. This is probably my least favorite of the 3 albums. I haven't had the easiest time like really gravitating towards the entire project. I think it's a little bit bloated. I think if you cut it down to maybe 13 to 15 songs, it would be a really strong effort, but there's a little bit of bulk and filler kind of holding it down for me. And interestingly, the singles outside of Timeless and Sao Paulo have not performed extraordinarily well. Their Cry For Me has been the Weeknd pop single from this album, but the one I chose is Open Hearts because I like how it plays more into his artistry. The song that comes before it on the album, called Baptized in Fear, a lot of the same lyrics and meaning from that song lead directly into Open Hearts. I think the production on Open Hearts is way more intriguing than Cry For Me. Cry For Me is a little bit more abrasive, whereas Open Hearts plays more into like a Swedish house mafia EDM sound. The team who created Open Hearts, being Max Martin, Oscar Holter, is the same duo that helped The Weeknd create Blinding Lights, his biggest hit ever, one of the biggest songs of all time. And the 3 of them as songwriters, with Max Martin and Oscar Holter on production, prove on Open Hearts why they are some of this generation's best hit makers. Together, separate, however you want to slice it. This is one of the more electrifying moments on Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is why I included it. One other song that I was really close to putting in this spot was I Can't Wait to Get There off this album. It's completely different from Open Hearts. It's very R&B leaning rather than this EDM adjacent hit. But if you haven't heard the album, definitely recommend checking both of those out. And now time for number 8. Number 8 goes to Ojos Tristes, which is a song off of Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco's collaborative album called I Said I Love You First that dropped earlier this year. This song actually features and is co-written by the Marias. And as a project, I liked I Said I Love You First a lot more than I expected to. I think the part of the album that is the most difficult to work with as a pop music fan is that a lot of the album is Selena trying on other artists' sounds. Like on this song, Ojos Tristes, it's very much a Maria song with Selena Gomez. You have Bluest Flame, which is also co-written with Charlie XCX, which sounds like it could have been on Brat. There are a bunch of songs on the album that feel very Lana Del Rey, but I think why it works is because Selena Gomez is a musical chameleon. Because she doesn't have the most incredible, most notable voice out there, because she has a history of trying on a bunch of different styles of pop music, she's kind of able to shapeshift and fit whatever's thrown at her. The song itself is very moody. The title translates to Sad Eyes. It feels like you're underwater and in like a 1980s club. It's one of those songs that is an instant vibe setter. I love the way that Selena sounds on this song. I love the fact that it is blending English and Spanish, which is something that Selena has done a ton throughout her career. She has an entire Spanish-length album. And kind of unexpectedly, this song became the hit off of I Said I Love You First. Other than Call Me When You Break Up, which was way more pop-driven and way clearer cut of a single off the album, Ojos Tristes ended up peaking at number 56 on the Billboard Hot 100. Not anything to like run home about, but still pretty impressive. And I don't know, I just really vibe with like the feeling that you get listening to this song. It's sorrowful but mysterious and so deeply thought-provoking too. It also proves to me you don't have to be the best vocalist in the world. You don't have to be the best songwriter in the world. It's the way that Selena is able to evoke emotion from her performance that sells this song for me. So that is Ojos Tristes. And then number 9, I'm actually going to give to Back to Friends by Somber, which is an up-and-coming artist. He is blowing up right now. Somber actually went to LaGuardia High School, which has many notable alumni, including Timothée Chalamet. It's an arts-driven high school. He's blowing up right now with Back to Friends, Undressed. He has 41 million monthly listeners, and Back to Friends is one of the Song of Summer contenders this year, actually. It doesn't sound anything like a Song of the Summer contender, but it is one. And I think why I included it on this list is because of Somber's unique vocal tone, and the melody of the chorus feels so familiar to me. I've never been able to figure out what other song it reminds me of, but it keeps me constantly coming back. It was written and produced by Somber himself. And I think what ultimately is making this song connect for so many people is that yearning for 2014 core nostalgia. Tumblr era indie pop punk sound of music, kind of like the very, very early days of 1975. This song reminds a ton of that. That is Somber's Back to Friends. And then last up, I was torn between including a deep album cut from Joe, DJO, aka Joe Keery, aka Steve Harrington from Stranger Things. He's the man behind End of Beginning, that huge hit from last year. He's one of my favorite artists. So that song, you know what? I'm just going to say both because they're on here. Number 10 is Nokia by Drake. I am not the biggest Drake fan anymore. He was obviously unstoppable. I love Take Care. If you're reading this, it's too late. Views. Pretty much since Views, though, Drake has kind of fallen off in my eyes in terms of quality. His hugely publicized beef with Kendrick Lamar took him down many pegs in many eyes. But Nokia is a undeniable banger. It is an undeniable banger. Nokia is a song off of Drake and Party Next Door's collaborative album that dropped in February called Some Sexy Songs for You. I wish I was kidding with that title. The song itself is funk infused. It is electrifying. It feels like you were partying on the beach in the Caribbean, and that is the exact energy we need right now because a lot of songs are not really doing that, and it doesn't really feel like summer. And I think that this song, if it were released 2 months later, would be without a doubt the clear song of the summer pick. It's kind of fading out right now just because it's been out for a hot minute already. But this song is just a certified earworm. It brought the fun back to Drake music because that had been missing for so long. Everything felt like Drake was trying to prove himself, to prove something, to prove he was better than the competition, for him to try to insinuate that he is the best in the game. And the lyrics and the melodies were just nowhere to be found. It was painfully cringe to listen to a lot of these recent Drake projects, and this song was the first one in a while that felt like the old Drake was back, and this is exactly what he should be doing right now. The last song I'll throw in here as an extra bonus is Joe's song Egg. I originally had Delete Ya, also off of Joe's most recent album, The Crux, in this spot, but when I was going through the list and I was listening back to The Crux, Egg is the song that I return to the most on the project because of the way the production makes me feel. This is one of those songs where I always ask people when I meet them, are you a production, a melody, a lyrics person? Which one are you? I'm a production and melody person before I am a lyrics person. Even though Taylor Swift is one of my favorite artists in the world, I am not the biggest lyrics person. I'm not the person who's feeling the emotion of the music from the lyrics being sung to me. I'm the one who's feeling the emotion of the song from the production and the melody, the music itself. And this song, Egg, accomplishes that through the roof for me. It kind of feels like you're riding a roller coaster of self-discovery, of intense journey seeking, of really thought-provoking questions and emotions that Joe throws at you on this song. It feels very nostalgic on this song, though. It feels like something like the Beatles, David Bowie could have been doing. And the lyrics are just straightforward, ripped out of his head. And I know I just said I'm not a big lyric person, but for some reason, this song just connected with me. This is definitely the one of this list that none of you are going to know. And if you do, I'm incredibly impressed. If you don't know it, please give it a listen. It feels like that cathartic release after building so much anxiety and stress and tension inside of you, where it can finally be realized and acknowledged. So that is my list of the 10 best songs released in 2025 so far. Again, this is just my opinion. This is based off the music that I enjoy listening to. Everyone's going to have a different list. Everybody's list is valid. This is mine, but I'm very curious to know what your thoughts are on it. So make sure you sound off in the comments. Let me know what they are. And with that, that is our episode of Live from Mars for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in each week. It means the absolute world to me. Again, if you are not already following and subscribed to the podcast, to the YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, please make sure you're following along the way. If you are already following and subscribed to the podcast, thank you. If you haven't already given it a 5-star rating, if that is the way you feel, I really appreciate it if you did. That again, that is how we get the podcast to grow, to get more incredible guests on here. So with all of that said, thank you for tuning in to another week's episode. Have a good week. I will see you all soon for another episode of Live from Mars.